Mr. Clerk, it is 7:07. I'd like to call this meeting of Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020 to order. Thank you all for those in attendance. Could I get an approval of the agenda, please? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions? So we have one added delegation, 5.2. All those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, can I get the vote again? All those in favor of the agenda? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Gardner, your vote on the agenda as amended?
I vote yes.
Thank you. That's carried. Delegations, we have two. Claire Malcolmson. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there seeing any declarations of pecuniary? Seeing none. Community presentations. We have one. Yes. Miss Malcolmson. Via Zoom or? Yeah.
I'm here on Zoom.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, hello. Good evening, Mayor Marcus and members of council. Can everybody hear and see me okay? I just don't want to interrupt if it's not okay. So I'm here to speak to you as quickly as I can tonight about Lake Simcoe. I'm the executive director of the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition. We're an Ontario-based charity just focused on Lake Simcoe. We've been around since 2003, and we were the charity that spearheaded the campaign to get the Lake Simcoe Protection Act, and I worked on that campaign back in 2008. Aurora is in the Lake Simcoe watershed, of course, as you know, which is why I'm here talking to you tonight. I have a much bigger presentation than I will have the chance to cover in 5 minutes. So I just really wanted to introduce the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition group to council and to give you some things to think about. And please be in touch at another time because we won't have a chance to go through it all. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and I will go through the presentation. All right, so going to talk a little bit, first of all, about Lake Simcoe in general. So you can see Aurora down here in the south end of the Lake Simcoe watershed. Tourism and recreation bring in an estimated $420 million each year for the local economy, which is really pretty impressive, especially at a time when we're concerned about local jobs and sustainability. Another nice fact, $975 million a year in ecosystem services provided by the natural features that we have around the Lake Simcoe watershed, such as forests and wetlands. I noticed that later on in your agenda, you have a really amazing resolution coming forward asking the EAC to focus on the climate emergency and a climate action plan. Protecting natural heritage is fantastic, of course, for that action plan as well. So many benefits to protecting natural heritage, particularly in the context of climate change. It's affecting Lake Simcoe. We're already seeing changes. We need to take action there. So one of the biggest problems with Lake Simcoe is phosphorus pollution. This is what happens when you have too much phosphorus and nitrogen flowing off the land and into water bodies. This is my paddle in duckweed in the Maskinonge about 10 years ago. This is a breakdown of phosphorus pollution sources. This is a Ministry of the Environment breakdown from about 10 years ago. The one I really want to draw your attention to is 31%, which is watershed, stream, urban runoff, and stormwater. Again, a climate change related issue to manage stormwater I just, again, going through this pretty fast, but you're largely urban or becoming very urban area, and so managing the urban runoff is really important to Lake Simcoe because it contributes actually now the biggest share of phosphorus to the lake. I should say too, of course, the result of phosphorus pollution in the lake is that you end up with lowered oxygen levels, which is bad for fish, and of course fish are a big part of that sustainable tourism number that I referenced earlier. So I'm going to focus a bit on the Lake Simcoe Protection Act and plan because the plan is scheduled for review this fall. The plan has a target of 44 tons per year of phosphorus. Peaked at 100 in the 80s, was here in 2008. The warning was that we were going to go back up to 94 if we didn't take action. Unfortunately, we have exceeded that warning even in the last 10 years. So the average for the last 10 years has been 90 tons per year, so that's higher than it, of course, much higher than the target of 44 tons per year. So there is no indication that we can take our foot off the gas on phosphorus loads. Our organization is concerned that that phosphorus target would be challenged in the review of the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, and we think that that absolutely should not happen without far more robust science than we've seen coming from the province on this. Here's a nice list of what was strengthened under the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. It's 118 policies. It's the best watershed management plan in Canada, so we don't want to mess with it. Protection for smaller wetlands, better protection for natural heritage generally, more science and monitoring, and improved stormwater management. So we have the best stormwater management policies in the province of Ontario. The Lake Simcoe Protection Plan has to be reviewed this fall 2020. It should have been done last year, but this is what it is. This is the province's timeline. Of course, municipalities, conservation authorities, the standard affected ministries, and the public will all have an opportunity to comment on this, and I'm told that it will be largely virtual, online, of course, given to the pandemic. So
Ms.
what's the province doing about this?
Your 5 minutes is up. Are you almost done, or do you need extra time?
2 minutes would be great.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So we've been waiting with bated breath for the province to do something. The Minister of the Environment, Jeff Yurek, released a 10-year report on Lake Simcoe in the middle of July, and it looks good, but our group is definitely concerned that it is really biased in favor of the good news stories. I don't think it's appropriate to put a science report and a minister's report all rolled up into one. The report was not referenced, it wasn't sourced normally or properly, and the science committee was not involved and was not consulted on this report. So we commented on that, and our very strong comments, I think, really resonated with the public that really think we need to take this seriously and don't want the results to look so rosy that we will weaken the protections of the Lake Simcoe Plan. We're a big development lobby. It's very effective in Ontario right now. Growth is the major agenda, and growth hurts the lake. So my message to you really is, zip right through to the end, but go back and read this later. We really need the province to know that they need to do the job that they signed up to do when we had unanimous all-party support for the passage of the Lake Simcoe Protection Act in 2008. And so we're asking municipalities around the watershed to call on the Government of Ontario to demonstrate their commitment to clean water, protecting what matters most, by ensuring that the provisions in the Lake Simcoe Plan that protect water quality are not weakened, and that policies protecting natural heritage are strengthened so that we meet the targets of the Lake Simcoe Plan, which we are currently not meeting. Also, that the province resource this work. And we're asking municipalities to do this, to join Barrie, Georgina Island First Nation, and yesterday Brock, and to some degree Oro-Medonte and Whitchurch-Stouffville, and sending a signal to the province that we really want them to take this seriously. There are a lot of competing interests out there, and municipal support for Lake Simcoe would help at this time. So thank you very much. also for the extension. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Could I just get a motion to receive, and then we'll get to some questions. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland, any comments or questions? Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Claire, thank you very much for coming out this evening. It's great work that you guys do. I'm just wondering, when it comes to the phosphorus load, do you guys have any concerns with the Upper York sewage solution?
Yes, we do. So the Lake Simcoe Protection Act says that thou shalt not put new sewage treatment plants into the Lake Simcoe watershed unless they are replacing an old one. So this is a bit tricky. The Upper York sewage system does not really meet the criteria for just replacing an old one. It replaces the Holland Landing sewage lagoon. It's really a stretch to say that it's kind of an upgrade. So yes, Upper York concerns me. The only area where we have measurable demonstrated reduction in phosphorus loads over the last 10 years has been from sewage treatment plants. We need to keep those caps on sewage treatment plants. My concern is that if we allow Upper York, then that opens the door for other municipalities to both increase the size of their sewage treatment plants and the phosphorus loads, and also to build sewage treatment plants where none exist. There's pressure to do so in Ramera, for example. And the lake just can't handle that, as far as we know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you for that. And then just in regards to the motion, that would be no problem. I think that I can speak to the clerk and we can bring something forward, and maybe I can work with council, and maybe if one of the councillors wanted to put it forward with myself, and we can just get it through and see what council decides moving forward. But we can get that into a council meeting for a decision.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you
for coming up tonight.
All right.
Council.
With the rest of your meeting. Thank
Oh, I have a few more questions. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for presenting this evening, and really mine's just a comment to thank you for your continued work and focus on rescuing Lake Simcoe. I'm a little disappointed that the 10-year plan that you presented is not meeting expectations as you felt. And just to Mayor Marakis' comment, we'd hope we can move this under new business and hopefully be able to discuss that tonight to move this motion forward. I don't think we're going to have much of a challenge doing that. So thank you very much again for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
One more.
Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Am I on?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for speaking tonight. You had a really fulsome slideshow, which was great. I think it really set the tone, and as far as the expectations of bringing these phosphorus levels down and the commitments that we need to do in order to support the initiative moving forward. I'm really happy to see this. I'm really happy that Mayor Marakis is on board to put this motion forward as well. And I would hope that perhaps maybe council could even get a copy of this presentation. I think it'd be good for us to even have this on hand from the delegate. Claire, are you able to? Yeah. Okay. The clerk said yep. Okay.
We'll get it from the clerk.
Perfect. Great. So we'll get that from the clerk, which is absolutely fantastic. And, hopefully we can definitely include some of this discussion and these concerns through the Environment Committee side. And hopefully that motion that's being put forward will enact a committee that's dedicated to the climate change and adaptation in this world, and especially Aurora. I know we care about our community, we care about our climate, we care about trying to be cognizant of what we do to protect the environment, and this just adds and complements that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's really great to hear.
And we have Councillor Gardner, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Mr. Chair?
Yes, she can. Yep, go ahead.
So almost every year we have a presentation from Lake Simcoe. We haven't had one in the last year. And phosphorus levels are the big thing. And
I think we've been trying to reduce the phosphorus levels. So I'm really shocked to hear that they're so high. Will somebody be providing specifics to municipalities on what we can continue or new things that we can try and do?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Gardner. Yes, there are some ideas in the presentation that I've provided. It's just 5 minutes. It's really hard. So there's a really big link between climate change impact and phosphorus loads to the lake. The belief at the moment is that the increased strength and severity of precipitation events are driving very heavy flows into the lake at slightly new times of year. So those March and April storms that are rainstorms on top of ice and snow, for example, those just throw masses of phosphorus into the lake. One of the reasons why water flows contribute to phosphorus loads as well is something you might imagine more typically, which is just a major rain event picking up sand and silt from stream or shorelines, and that ending up in the lake as well, because phosphorus is found naturally in soils. So anything that the town can do and continue to do, I know the town has been very proactive, but on managing stormwater, on handling rain on site rather than conveying it away in pipes is helpful for sure. Riparian planting and buffer planting, and we're really preoccupied with meeting our natural cover targets. So, and Aurora's pretty good on that too. But all of those things both help with climate change and will help reduce phosphorus loads. And I don't mean to suggest that the actions that we're taking are not working, or that the actions that governments are taking, we're an NGO, but they are working, but we also have a massive amount of development planned and approved in the watershed. That is the only growing source of phosphorus loads going into the lake. So that, combined with the extra stressors of climate change, are stressing the ecosystem even further. So the science moves pretty quickly.
Thank you. You mentioned managing stormwater. And also managing stormwater on site. So have you provided ways that we can improve that?
So the Lake Simcoe watershed is now subject to regulations that were enabled by the creation of the Lake Simcoe Protection Act. So because we have legislation to do this, like I was just listening to the town of Whitby last night, having a council meeting, trying to get a bylaw passed around low carbon future. Anyway, at Lake Simcoe, we have the legislative authority to do quite advanced environmental work. I think that makes us quite lucky. And so stormwater management guidelines have been updated and improved, and your planning team, I'm sure, knows about that, and requires new developments to follow the advanced stormwater management guidelines. A lot of this, it's a lot managed by the Conservation Authority and by your planners. So I think if you really are concerned and want to get serious about it, I would make sure that your planners have had good current education from the Conservation Authority about what is expected of them to reduce phosphorus loads and to manage stormwater on site, because there are lots of regulations and programs.
Thank you. With respect to the authority under the Legislative Act, with the legislative authority, apart from the developers, are there other things, and is there money to do other things?
Sorry, are there other things?
Apart from managing stormwater on new developments?
Yes. Oh, what else does the Act do?
What else can we do, and is there money in it? Is there any money available to do it?
Well, we are, and I hope Council will ask the province for that money. What has happened, though, is, again, the Lake Simcoe Protection Act has 118 policies. I can't really go through it, but it does touch natural heritage, water volume, sewage treatment plants, septic system inspection. I mean, there are a massive number of policies. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It was, I think, maybe it blew my mind.
I mean, I know we have all these policies, but do we have the money to do what the policies suggest?
Okay, sorry, thank you very much. So one of the things that the Lake Simcoe Protection Act enabled was the Lake Simcoe Phosphorus Offset Program.
Yes.
And the Ecological Offset Program, I think, may have been enabled through this as well. So what those allow us to do is where there is a new development and there is going to be a price tag set for the consumer, where municipalities, not me, but municipalities are asking the developers to meet these standards, and though that work may cost the developer more, it doesn't always actually, and those costs are passed on. So when you're looking for a polluter pay kind of approach, that is one. That money that is collected from the development community is then used to remediate in that sub-watershed area, in that local area. So it will help to offset phosphorus loads from other sources in the area. So frankly, that is one of the only long-standing financing mechanisms available that was enabled through the Lake Simcoe Protection Act and Plan, and its use is limited. So I really, that is a good one. We really need to keep that in the review of the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. Probably more programs like that, kind of a polluter pay approach would be very helpful. And again, just any place where you can help reduce the cost of the town of flooding and dealing with climate change, that is really going to help with phosphorus loads if it's done with good advice.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, any other questions or comments?
You said something about the cost being passed on. Do you mean to homeowners?
I think that's how it would work, yeah. If for new build, right, it's these new development standards apply to basically to subdivisions, even small subdivisions, but I think they have to be more than 10 homes.
Thank you. And is there any provision to try and go back to subdivisions that are already built?
No. So the stormwater fee, for example, I'm not sure, sorry, with respect, I'm not sure where Aurora stands on this, but I know that there have been other municipalities in Ontario that have adopted a stormwater fee, and that helps them deal with the once thought to be unforeseen costs of stormwater management over a longer time frame. And the province did did allow municipalities to do that.
Thank you, and I believe we're doing that. Thank you very much for your time, and I would like to see your entire presentation as well.
The clerk will
I believe council has it. I think it was attached to the agenda.
The clerk will the clerk will get it to us.
Thank you. I didn't see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Any other comments or questions? I understand from the clerk that we can add that resolution to the council meeting next week and just get 2/3 majority and deal with it then. Thank you very much. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much for all your information. We should keep a very close eye to this. Councillor Gardner, your vote to receive?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. That's approved. Second delegation, Mrs. Fiona Durant. Getting more involved in the direction of the town. You have 5 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
It's a little hard to hear.
Is that better?
It's probably...
Do I have to have this on? Is that better? Okay, good. Whew. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I'm Fiona Durant, a resident of Aurora for 13 years. It is hard to be leaders at this time, and so I empathize with you, and thank you guys for the hard work that you're doing. I've been just looking at social media lately and seeing some of the comments and posts from leaders and articles, and it just brought something to my concern. And I just want to take the time to just bring that to your attention. I've met with many of the counselors one-on-one just because it's become a priority for me to get involved or have no complaint. If you're not involved, what are you complaining about? So I try to be aware of what's happening in the town. I've taken part in just coming to meetings like these to be abreast of what's going on, so therefore I know what to ask or where to go. And all the leaders, all the counselors that I've met, including deputy mayor and the mayor, one of the things they're looking or focusing on, which impresses me, is that Aurora will be a groundbreaking place for precedents of inclusivity and change before it becomes mandated by the province or other federal or wherever else. And Aurora is already such a unique place, so it would be no better place to have that done. And when I look, I just say again, thank you for the opportunity for even coming with this. Our town and our country, I try to write it down, currently have a very healthy focus on mental health, unity, diversity, inclusivity, and resilience, Black lives, and all of that. And we need to see that mirror in our leaders. Because how can I call and believe the authenticity of my counselors who is going to advocate for Black lives if there's no cohesiveness within the leaders from what I see on the outside? And so that's been a concern for me, and that's what I want to bring to us today. How can leaders make decisions in the most economical and critical time if there is the approach of more subjectiveness that is filled with friction between leaders and personality and feelings? And it brought to me that I have 3 sons and we watch basketball all the time. And one of the things I learned from basketball is that we don't have to break bread later, but we are on a team and we have a mission and we're going to win. And so when I look at the council, it concerns me, like I said, just when I read articles that post by another counselor or things that's just threading through social media, it makes me feel like my council that I'm counting on to lead me in my town is divided. And so that just brought very concerning to me, because I know when I meet councilors or mayors individually, everybody's authentic and passionate about the town, and I want to know why it cannot be this way behind these polls. And so when there is cohesiveness in relationship behind here, it will impact how the town is led. How we lead the town, it will influence planning, and it will influence the planning for our town negatively, where things get stalled, things get delayed, because we don't have to agree to be supportive, we don't have to agree to be understanding, and we don't have to agree to maintain amicable relationship. And so from what I'm seeing, I'm just a resident. I go on Facebook from time to time. I read an article from time to time, and I speak to you guys from time to time. And so my biggest question is, again, how can I call on the council that is showing, from what I see, from what is displayed, lack of cohesiveness, unity, understanding, and teamwork to represent me for Black Lives Matter or Aurora Black community or anything else? So the last question, the 2 questions I have: do council go on retreat? Relationship is everything. Chemistry is everything. When a basketball person throw the ball behind, they know who is going to catch it because there's trust. And so I want to know, what does council do to maintain cohesiveness in your relationship, in the teamwork? And also, is there a mediator available to council? So if I'm not comfortable to go to Rachel or to go to anybody else, who is mediating to make sure that there's a healthy place, or this is a healthy place that I can trust to come to and know that there's team? That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, as always eloquently said. Could I get a motion to receive first off? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Councillor Humphreys.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you so much for coming this evening. You speak beautifully, and I appreciate hearing what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. I hope we look a little more like we get along than what I'm hearing this tonight, because maybe I'm missing some of the social media where there's negativity. I unfortunately, I read all the positive stuff, and I stay away from the negative. So that could be my little bubble, my little world. I do hope that we can, I do believe here, a couple things you asked about, what do we do as a team? We did have orientation when we first started. I thought it was great. Everyone attended, and we really got along well. And I still think I get along well around the table. But again, it could be my bubble, right? But I do appreciate that, because just gives me awareness of what the public's thinking, and we do need to work as best as possible as a team. I think sometimes what you're seeing, though, is, and I learned this through becoming a counselor, when you're working outside of here, other jobs, other things, you truly have a mission and you're on the same field, right? And you have an objective and you got to get there. We have that here, but sometimes there's differences of opinion, and that's because of a democratic process. If you'll notice, and I said this sometimes to Councillor Gilliland, being new, often when we vote, you can make 50% of the people happy and 50% very unhappy. And this is because you do the best you can. I speak for myself, I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way, because we love this town, and we hope that every decision made is the right one for our town. And even when we don't agree, I believe we respect each other, because everyone's making these decisions, I believe, in the best interest of the town. So although we may not look like we agree, I think sometimes, I don't know, again, forgive me for social media, I'm not the best social media person, so I miss a lot of the bad stuff, and I'm kind of happy about that, because sometimes people send me things, and what people say about me, I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't show me that. It just breaks my heart. I would never speak about people or say things about people like I've seen them say about me, but I think they have a right to do that. It's a democratic process. When you put yourself here, everyone has a right. They're free to do that. They're not happy with you, and they can express it the way they like. So I even respect that, to be honest with you. But from my perspective, I want to thank you for coming here, because it's important for me to hear that and always have respect around the table for my colleagues and my peers who I do have respect for, and I do value their opinions. We just need to obviously work a little more, and maybe I will call you offline to help me with a few helpful hints, because I know you've got lots of great thoughts and processes. And I also want to commend you on what you've done for the community, and in the Black Lives Facebook page that I love, community page that I think is just groundbreaking, and we need to do more of that, absolutely, and support that, along with all the other important causes that we have in our community to make it home a great place to live.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. It's just a comment from me, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Councillor Humphreys did have a lot to say there, and I echo a lot of what she's saying as well, so I'm not going to go and repeat all of that. I think we all kind of feel the same way. I do love the idea of having a retreat and circle back and just kind of ground ourselves a bit, and maybe there is room to kind of regroup a bit. It's been a really tough time during COVID, and we haven't really met the same way in person, and it can feel really disconnected, especially when we've been isolated or behind Zoom and cameras, and you kind of lose a sense of that personal touch. I'm still a believer. You come here, you do a healthy debate. When you decide, you make your vote. At the end of the day, you go home and you don't make that personal. You just kind of go on, and at the end of the day, we're still friends at the end. And that's what I'd like to see happen and continue to happen. Sometimes debates can get heated, and emotions can run high, but I think that's part of again, like what Councillor was saying, part of the democratic process. If we didn't, go through that and have these healthy discussions within our heart, and we're just trying to please maybe everybody's emotions, maybe we wouldn't get the the result that we really personally wanted to get out of that for the greater good of ourselves and how we're representing the people. But yeah, I do think you have some great ideas, and I'm so grateful that you came to speak. It's very refreshing to sometimes sit back and have a new look at, ooh, maybe we do need to do a self-check and kind of regroup and kind of relook at some of the relationships of the retreat value of that and move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fiona.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Just to conclude, first of all, thank you for coming up and expressing your opinion on a personal note. I value your opinions, and just so you know, based on our last conversation, I acted on what you had suggested I do. In fact, it's happening tomorrow, so I want to thank you for that, and for all you do for the community, and keep coming back. Sometimes we need to be reminded.
Thank you. Thank you,
Councillor
guys.
Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mrs. Durant, I'm curious as to, was there a certain thing that you read or a certain instance that brought up this topic in terms of intercouncil relationships, or was it just a general vibe you get, or something specific? I was just curious about that.
They're specific, but it would not be healthy to bring it, because that's not the point. If the conversation that I'm trying to have, I'm not trying to put anybody on the platter. I just want to let you guys know that it is obvious, and it is for the people who are paying attention, and for the people who know that this town mattered to them, they see it. So yeah, so hopefully that can answer that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're done? We have Councillor Gardner on Zoom that has a comment or question.
Thank you so much for coming. I remember the first time I came to the podium.
Councillor Gardner, we have a picture of your kitchen, I think, here.
Oh, how nice. I don't know how to do it. I'll just take my kitchen off.
Okay, go ahead.
So thank you very much for coming.
It's not easy to come before council. I have to disagree with you a little bit. I don't know what reporting you're speaking of and what it's been like, but when you have 7 people on a council, if we all have the best interests of the town at heart, we also have different ideas on how to achieve that. So I think you're hearing a very healthy democratic process in council. I don't think it would be good if everybody could agree. With respect to cohesive, that it goes back to that same point. But perhaps we could just handle it in a different way. So thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome. I'll add this to you, Councillor Wendy. Mandela says you will achieve more in the world, and I add in the town or city or whatever, through the act of mercy. I choose love, kindness, and thoughtfulness versus through the act of retribution. So sometimes it's not about the fact that there are 7 people and we are entitled to an opinion and we're having a healthy debate, but it's the fact of how it's been done. So I hear you, but I hope you hear that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kindness and love is very important in our world.
Thank you for reminding us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have
Wonderful night, guys.
Mayor Maracus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Fiona, thank you very much for coming this evening. You do have quite a passion for the town, and on the many times that we've met and we've had conversations, I see that passion, and so I thank you for everything that you've done so far for this town. I know the last time we met, you asked, how can you get involved as far as from the multicultural festival perspective? I put you in touch with Shelley, and boom, right away, there you are, and I hear the name of your spa, and it was incredible that you acted upon it right away, and how much, like I said, that passion that you have. I did want to reiterate some of what some of the councillors have mentioned. We did have a retreat at the beginning of the term where we got together. We start to kind of, learn about each other, and we also learn about how we can work together. We also do have one-on-one meetings every other month. We get together, and then beyond that, we also do have conversations all the time. with each other. As has been pointed out, we don't always agree, but as you mentioned, one of the biggest things, and I've always said, is that we need to respect each other no matter what our opinions are. We're all trying to do what's in the best interest of this town and for our residents and our community. But at the end of the day, we can respect each other's opinions if we all know that it's coming from our heart.
Yes.
So I appreciate everything that you do, and thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Motion to, or vote, motion to receive. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote? How do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. No consent agenda, no advisory committee minutes. Item 8.1, Sports Plan Progress Report number 2. I believe there's a presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here and then we'll get started on my presentation. And, whoops. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm just sorry. I'm just going to make sure it's in the beginning. There we go. So good evening, Mayor Marakis and members of council. I'm happy to be here virtually tonight to share with you a second progress report on the sport plan since March 3rd, 2020. Shortly after my first report to council, the province and town were significantly impacted by the closure of all but essential services. Despite these closures, work on the sport plan continued, with some initiatives on the same path while others required adjustments. The pause due to COVID-19 has provided sport with an opportunity to support one another and share to ensure sport continues to be an integral part of the community going forward. Sport provides both physical and mental health benefits, as well as an opportunity to socialize in a safe way with the safety protocols being put into place. Women and girls in sport. In follow-up to the completion of the surveys and consultation between January and March of 2020, Canadian Women in Sport completed a gender equity report for the town of Aurora. Contained within the report is 6 identified priority gaps, including governance, which focuses on local sport organizations, the town of Aurora Recreation Department, and the community endorsing gender equity in their goals and objectives. Awareness identifies the need to determine if community members are aware of the opportunities that exist for females in sport. Are the efforts to promote programs reaching the right people? Promotion of women in sport. Females in sport need to be celebrated and recognized. This includes females at all levels, from the grassroots through to high performance. If females cannot see other females through promotion, they are less likely to get involved. The fourth being innovative partnerships. The report identified the need to look beyond the traditional partners in sport. An example of this includes the work with organizations such as the Welcome Center, Immigrant Services. Identifying other innovative partners will allow sport to reach more people. Innovative programming. The traditional format of delivering sport is not meeting the needs of many females, and we can see that in the participation numbers. I will share later in my presentation some key messages that were shared on September 13th in a presentation by Sheila Croxon. Innovative recruitment and retention. Once programming is in place, look at how females are being recruited through marketing campaigns. And how are they being retained or not retained? And if not, why? As a next step to the report, the town of Aurora has developed an implementation plan and a Sport Equity and Inclusion Committee to guide the execution of the plan. The committee has met once, and future meetings are scheduled for later this month and in November of 2020. Another initiative under Women and Girls in Sport. In late March 2020, the town of Aurora was excited to announce being a Canadian Women in Sport WISE Fund recipient. The grant supported the launch of the 20 Female Leaders in 2020 program, which provides financial support to local coaches, officials, and board members to obtain training and professional development. These females will also be engaged in the sport plan initiatives and featured through Town of Aurora's social media channels. This aligns with the goal of featuring more females in the community. If you cannot see it, if you can see it, you will be it. Furthermore, 2 females from the program are featured in the podcast by See What She Can Do and will be released later this week. Resource and guidance. Collaboration, resource sharing, and engaging topic experts is all beneficial to creating a safe sport environment for our community. The town of Aurora is taking steps to provide timely support to local organizations in their daily operations. In collaboration with community programs, a resource on working with persons with a disability is in development. The resource will provide our local sport organizations with more information on topics such as creating a welcoming environment, examples on how to adapt activities, and scenarios on how to manage certain situations. Next, the town of Aurora has been actively posting and sharing information through social media channels on sport-related topics. We are currently in the middle of National Coaches Week with a Thank Coach campaign to celebrate the countless coaches that make sport possible. Next week, information will be shared about Rowan's Law, a provincial law regarding concussion education in sport. Finally, inviting topic experts to share their knowledge with our local sport organizations. In the midst of early stages of the pandemic, Steve Indig from Sport Law and Strategy Group joined us to speak to overall business operations during COVID-19. Sport organizations were provided with guidance on risk management, engaging with members through social media and virtually, employment, managing fees, and much more. It is without a doubt that COVID-19 had an impact on the execution of priorities related to the sport plan. The following addresses some of the adaptations that were made to ensure work could continue to happen. Originally scheduled for September 13th, 2020, the Female Leaders in Sport Summit is under review for an alternative delivery model and method in January of 2021. In lieu of not being able to provide the full summit on September 13th, we still wanted to provide an opportunity to educate and connect the community. Sheila Croxon, 3-time Olympic coach, joined us in a virtual keynote address open to coaches, parents, officials, and administrators. Thank you to Mayor Marakis for joining to bring opening remarks, as well as hear the messages Sheila had to share. She spoke to key information about the low participation rates and dropout rates of females in all roles of sport. Her presentation focused on 3 key themes that are integral to engaging more females in sport: culture, connection, and confidence. There was a lot of information shared that will be taken back to the Sport Equity and Inclusion Committee as we move forward on the Gender Equity Report. Through communication during Sheila's presentation, as well as post-session, I'm sharing some of the feedback provided by the participants on this slide. And you'll see, similar to us being able to take back some key information to the Sport Equity and Inclusion Committee, many of the participants are able to take back a lot of key information shared to be able to implement it into their role as a sport leader in the community. And through the post-event survey, 100% of respondents indicated that the presentation met their expectations and they were able to obtain valuable information. The Mayor's Roundtable of Sport, an initiative to be launched in person in May of 2020, was quickly adjusted with the first virtual meeting taking place on April 8th. A series of 7 meetings have happened to this point and provided the sport community with an opportunity to connect during an unprecedented time. There was an extensive amount of information shared, learnings to take away, and support as some sport organizations were unsure what the future would bring. Future meetings will take place as needed and focus on relevant sport topics at that time. As I continue to look at how the town can move forward on the sport plan initiatives under the current circumstances, the following outlines some of the upcoming plans. Engaging culturally diverse groups. Without the option to host in-person focus groups originally planned for spring of 2020, options to have individuals from the Welcome Center Immigrant Services and local high schools complete online surveys is being explored. It is important that we hear directly from the community prior to moving forward on plans. Regarding low-income families, in August of 2020, Community Programs successfully launched the Play in the Park program. After further discussion, the opportunity to bring the program to parks throughout Aurora could address the barrier of transportation for low-income families. And finally, the tourism industry has been hit hard by the pandemic. And the same holds true for sport tourism, with many local, provincial, national, and international sporting events being rescheduled, put on hold, or canceled completely. Most recently, the 2021 Canada Summer Games, scheduled to take place in Ontario, has been rescheduled to 2022. While the province moves forward with each stage of reopening, the development of a sport tourism strategy will begin when there is a better idea of what the future will look like and the capacity for the town to bring sport tourism into the community. Now, more than ever, sport has an opportunity to support the community in their physical and mental well-being while following safety protocols. The collaborative momentum that was established during this pandemic can move the sport community forward in the midst of reopening and beyond. I would like to thank Mayor Marakis and Council for your ongoing support to drive the sport plan forward and strengthen our community. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to receive, please? Mayor Marakis, Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions to Aaron? Councillor Gilliland. Sorry, it's gone. Mayor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aaron, thank you very much for the presentation. And you know, it's tremendous work that you've done, I think, over these past 6 months going through this pandemic and what we've been able to, I think, achieve. You know, we actually, that first meeting, I remember we posed the question to a lot of the organizations, and we said we should take this, even though we're going through a pandemic and some difficult times, is we should look at this and take those opportunities that are being presented and utilize them as organizations to better ourselves and better our residents and better our athletes. And they've stepped up to that task, and they've done that. And I think that the work that we've done through this, I mean, as you mentioned, with Sheila Croxon coming, that forum was inspirational, I think, for everyone that attended and heard the comments and the discussion, and what they took away was very valuable. You know, a lot of times what's said is that you need to listen and learn, but at the same time you need to translate that listening and learning into action. And I think that's what everyone's done through this. And I'm proud of all the organizations. I'm proud of you, Aaron, for all the work that you've done, staff, Robin. It's been incredible work. And I think that the one thing that actually that's been a benefit as well from us, and it's an opportunity that we've taken as a town, is, you know, we did want to do the Mayor's Roundtable of Sports, and they were supposed to be in person. And we were trying to figure out, as I made a promise to meet with all the organizations 4 times a year, and we found it very challenging the first year. And so we didn't think it was going to happen anymore. And so we were trying to figure out how to do that. And what happened was the pandemic hit, and that opportunity presented ourselves where we got to know Zoom. And we were able to have these meetings, and what we found is we were all able to get together on a regular basis and have those conversations. And now it's become so easy for staff to be connected with all of our organizations, which has been a benefit to the corporation, to the organizations, to the residents, and to the community as a whole. So we've taken that opportunity, as I said, we've seized it, and I think we're better off as we move through this pandemic. So thank you very much, Aaron, for all the hard work that you've done.
Thank you. Councillor Kim? Sorry, I just want to interrupt 1 second. The motion on the floor is to receive and also to discuss the report that's on the agenda. So if you have any comments about the report, now's the time. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Aaron, for your excellent work. With regards to women and girls in sports, the group identified certain gaps, and the report mentions innovative 3 times in one paragraph in terms of innovative partnerships, innovative programming, and innovative recruitment and retention. Is it a lack of execution of the innovative recommendations that exist, or you don't know, or you're trying to find the innovative recommendations and you'll know what innovative means when you hear it?
Ms. Hamilton?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's really about identifying where we need to go with sport for females. So right now, the current sort of box or delivery model that sport has in many cases, it doesn't work for females. So when we talk about innovation, it's really focusing on and using that word to identify moving forward outside of the traditional delivery method was the goal in using that word when it was identified 3 times. So let's not go back to what traditionally has been, or use the perspective that this is the way it is and it's never going to change. We need to be innovative. And so if we come up with ideas that are already in place, then we're not achieving and addressing that gap. So by using the word innovative means we need to go outside of what traditionally has been, and we need to identify new things that traditionally have not existed within sport. So that's the partnerships that you don't see traditionally and you don't think to go to traditionally. So what exists? What other organizations exist in this community that potentially we could collaborate with to reach more people that we have not reached and reach more females? That doesn't mean we're going to more sport organizations. What are those organizations that are non-sport that we maybe haven't thought to collaborate with?
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And secondly, regarding engaging with culturally diverse groups, from my experience, it's been challenging engaging the diverse groups in our region and in Aurora. Do you have a specific strategy in engaging these particular groups, or is it still in the initial stages?
Ms. Hamilton?
Through you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with you 100%. So we tried initially to run some focus groups where we did an invite out to the community to have people attend, and the attendance, we just didn't have engagement. And that's where we have gone to organizations such as the Welcome Center Immigrant Services. So we were setting up information booths at their facility. And then just before the pandemic hit, we were in discussions with them to actually go in and run focus groups with as part of their English classes that were being facilitated. So we would go in for one of their classes and run a focus group where we could connect with them directly and build a relationship. And what we've found through the work we've done, as well as through some of the research out there, a big piece is going to individuals in a space that they're comfortable with to be able to move forward. So if they're comfortable at the Welcome Center, they're already attending classes there. So that would be an example of one. And the other is through the local high school. So we had been in discussions with both school boards, and the intention again was to go directly into the ESL, the English as a Second Language classes in the high schools, to deliver focus groups. Again, the pandemic hit. So looking at surveys. And then the third example, again, going to people. I did a presentation to the Alabar Muslim Association, where I went in and I was able to speak directly to their members to hear directly from them. So starting to build relationships directly with existing groups within the community that, again, we haven't necessarily connected with, and that's where we were starting to establish the ability to connect with some culturally diverse groups through those avenues was where we were at sort of pre-pandemic, and it's definitely put up some challenges, but again, we're looking at alternative ways to be able to reach those individuals, because it has been identified sort of now and through my communication with the Welcome Center Immigrant Services, now more than ever is a very isolating time, or has been over the last 6 months. And so how can we engage individuals that are newcomers to the community to help support them in this time more than ever?
Thank you.
Great, thank
Kim.
you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Aaron, thank you for this report. I think it's great having an update from the success of this roundtable and getting a lot of the sports community together. And it's important to keep the lines of communication open. I guess you could say this as an example of when there's adversity, there's opportunity and innovation. And this is a really great step forward of making some change in a positive way that maybe we never really thought. So I think this is a great outcome. Question, you have like a part in here about the Play in the Park program, and there's a section here about the town reaching out to the school boards and requesting to share ideas on programming, timing, opportunity to promote to families in the school. And I'm just trying to get an idea of what that's supposed to look like and what's the intention, because right now it's a program that seems to be offered on the weekends and evenings at our local parks. Could you just expand a little bit on what it is you're trying to do there?
Ms. Hamilton?
Definitely, through you, Mr. Chair. So the intention is that this is a program that is not just specifically for a particular school. So right now, community programs, or they were doing programs where particular schools were coming to community centers and doing skating programs. The intention is that we bring this program into some identified low-income neighborhoods in Aurora, where it's at a park in that community, after school, evenings, weekends, where it allows individuals from that community to walk to the park, and they don't need to depend on transportation to get there. And so transportation was one of the identified barriers. So the goal in working with the schools and reaching out to the schools is that by collaborating with them and working with them, it allows us to reach those families in that neighborhood more effectively. So I have been in communication in particular with the York Region District School Board about low-income families, and we started some discussions around what the needs are and how we could potentially support families in those neighborhoods so they didn't have to be transported to sporting programs. So by doing this program, it would be promoted through the guide and open to anybody in the community. It wouldn't be identified for only particular people to attend that are from low-income families. It would be open to anybody, but by bringing it into the communities that are identified as low-income, it eliminates that barrier, and the cost to do and participate in the Play in the Park program falls and is within reason for them to pay to participate. So by working with schools, it's a way to sort of talk to them about their thoughts on timing in terms of after school. They know their families well. Do we need to do something immediately after school? Does it need to be a 7 o'clock program? Weekends, they know their families. We can talk to them a bit about how the structure worked, and it allows them to get outside in their neighborhood, walk to where they're going, but it's open to anybody in the community to participate.
Thank you.
Yep, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the in-depth detail, and I'm glad that you're forming those relationships. Obviously, that can foster a lot of potential partnerships with other areas of our sports strategy plan, and I'm certain that you guys will probably move forward with that. One last question. You do have an advisory committee review section. It does say here you'll provide an update to a couple committees as appropriate, and I'm really hoping that perhaps you'll be able to share some of this in their next upcoming advisory committee meeting. Is that something that's in your plan to present to them for feedback or information, just to get a pulse on the community?
Mr. Chair, so just I think it was last week, I have had some email communication with the clerk's office about finalizing a date where I can bring a presentation on the sport plan to the Community Advisory Committee. So again, I was scheduled to present back in April, and then that had to be canceled. So we're currently, we were looking at a date in November for me to bring forward a presentation to that committee meeting. So we're just working to finalize that, but that was the intention.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I know that those committees will be really excited to hear what you guys have been up to and keep them in the loop and give some feedback and move forward with some great initiatives that you have here with sport. So thanks so much for the work.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and thank you, Aaron, for all the work you've done. Just to echo the comments of my fellow colleagues. We've been working on the sport plan for 5 years now, and each year I continue to be impressed by the work that everyone puts into it. This, especially given such a challenging year, it's great to see that you were able to still progress through the sport plan and make some accomplishments. So well done, and look forward to the next progress report.
Thank you, and we have Councillor Gardner on Zoom.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm so pleased and interested to hear about the work you've done. How long have you been on the ground in Aurora?
So I stepped into this position in August. So it's in August, so just over a year.
Well, you've done a lot of work. Thank you. Of course, gender equity is so important. And the culturally diverse groups, great idea to go to the Welcome Center. It's a wonderful place. With respect to play in the park, where were you doing it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's currently, the programs in August and the ones happening right now are in Lambert-Wilson Park.
Thank you. So not so easy to get to for some people.
From a transportation perspective, correct.
And I don't want to know this at the meeting. There's two of me, Mr. Mayor. Anyway, I would like you to email me and let me know which neighborhoods you've identified as low income.
Definitely. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I will email you directly. And part of the work as well that will help to identify is our communication with the school boards. And they've done some work already with community programs on identifying neighborhoods. And so we'll align and look at that as well. But I'll definitely follow up with email communication on that.
Thank you. I'd like to hear your thoughts on accessibility and sport. I think a guide was formed, although I can't find it in my report, but of course including people with physical and mental disabilities in sport is very important. Have you done any work on that?
Ms. Hamilton?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the initial, yes, a report is in draft form. So the first draft is being completed and it's currently with the accessibility advisor as well for review and feedback prior to finalizing for comment. So the intention is that report would be made available to local sport organizations by mid-October. So that's the first step. In regards to actual programming, it has been identified a lack of programming available for persons with physical disabilities in this community. We do currently have Special Olympics Ontario Aurora, who does a phenomenal job in servicing those with developmental disabilities, but there has been an identified gap for persons with physical disabilities, and it is a priority identified through the sport plan for the end of 2020 and the first half of 2021 to address those. So that is work that is coming up and a priority that's been identified within the sport plan, and that's the timelines associated with it. So when I come forward with my next report to council, I'll have more of an update on that area for you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that. Will you be going to the Accessibility Advisory Committee?
Ms. Hamilton?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for a presentation or for review of the...
Review.
For the review, yes. So through my communication with the accessibility advisor, a request was made to also have the accessibility advisory committee review that document as well and provide feedback on that document. So both requests for that was made through the accessibility advisor.
Thank you. And will the draft also be addressing seniors with accessibility issues?
Ms. Hamilton?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It doesn't specifically dig into seniors. I think a lot of the recommendations are generic enough across the board that could be applied for multiple scenarios, but happy if that's an area that is brought forward that needs to be done, more than happy to look at that further and work with the team, the older adults and the adult group to look at that a bit further.
And the senior center does have amazing programs, but I don't know how large the membership is. It's quite large, but it certainly doesn't encompass all of the seniors, and we have one of the fastest growing seniors populations in the York region. So would like some thought to that if you could. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, including you, Councillor Gardner. Any opposed? Councillor Gardner?
I say yes.
That's carried. Thank you. Item 8.2, CMS 20-022, Library Square Project Monitoring Task Force. The recommendation is one, that report number CMS 20-02 be received, and that the terms of reference for Library Square Project Monitoring Task Force be approved, and that 2 members of council be appointed to the Library Square Project Monitoring Task Force. Could I get a motion to put it on the floor? Councillor Thompson, Mayor Marakis, any comments or questions, any suggestions on council members? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask, there was somewhere in the report, and I was just trying to find it, where it said that the task force has already been put together and developed, and I just want to know if people have already been appointed and we already know who they are, just based on some of the language inside the report, not necessarily the recommendation or resolution, but inside the report. So has people been already appointed to this committee?
Mr. Clerk, or Mr. Mayor?
Mayor?
Sure. As far as from a council perspective, no one's been appointed as of just yet. We'd be approving the fact that it would be 2 members, and we would do it similarly as we do all of our committees. Is that I would ask for each and every one of you, if you have any desire to be appointed to this, let me know, and then we would do as we strictly do with all our committees. Is I would appoint as based on your finishing, as far as how you finished. So person higher would, if you had someone that was higher that finished compared to someone that was lower, and you both wanted that the person at the higher end would get the appointment. Similar is what we do with all the committees.
All right, that's all. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? I see your name there, but did you already speak, Mr. Mayor? I just have one, maybe suggestion, if I can find it. It speaks to, in the report, that I think it's on page 12 of 55, right at the top. Meeting minutes will be created and circulated to the task force members. I'd like to add there, and council, at least once a week prior to each meeting. My experience from the last task force is that we seem to be somewhat out of the loop, and I think it's good practice to have all of council be aware of the discussions and the minutes to be circulated to all of council. Just a suggestion. Yep. Mr.
If I can clarify, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, if normally the minutes would go to the committee for approval first of the last meeting, and then they would go on the next agenda. So is that okay?
Yep, that's fine. The minutes would go to the committee for approval, and then they would show up on a council agenda. Any other comments or questions? Sorry, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to stay off camera so I can read my agenda. I guess this is through you to Councillor Thompson. The motion that you made and that we have before us is that the Budget Control Task Force monitor and examine all financial and budgetary aspects. The word budgetary isn't mentioned at all in this report, so are you satisfied that everything that you intended will be captured?
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, because obviously, whoever sits on the task force, I will assume that they will weigh whatever the reports are against both the budget as well as the construction schedule, as per we did with the JOC. And also, as we have done in the Finance Advisory Committee, we've had reports brought to us with respect to the fire hall, the JOC, and the Library Square project in its lead up into the tendering process. And really that's what we've spoken to in those committee meetings, is just really are we on schedule, are we on budget, and so forth.
Thank you, and I like what the report says. I just noted that you were specific to use that word budgetary, and it is not expressed as such in this report. So, but I'm going to assume from what you said that you're pleased with these terms of reference. That's all I was asking, because the word budgetary is a pretty big word. But I'm not really sure. Well, I actually am sure that it's captured. I was just wondering if you felt that word should be included somewhere in the terms of reference.
I believe he's fine with it.
Great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Councillor Gardner? In favor? Your vote?
My vote is yes.
Yes, thank you. That's carried. 8.3, that report number PDS, well, I won't read the whole thing. Downtown parking update, Library Square. Would someone like to put this on the agenda? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I was reading the report, and there's this recommendation from staff. I'm just trying to find it, which was specifically, they didn't necessarily recommend utilizing the stop sign right now or the traffic light, and was recommended to wait. Yeah, here it is. Staff recommends to monitor the future vehicular and pedestrian demand when a Library Square development is constructed and undertake the necessary warrant analysis prior to the consideration of the above noted traffic control amendments. Should council decide to install the proposed traffic signal at the intersection of Yonge Street and Church and implement always stop at the intersection of Victoria, appropriate funding should be allocated through the budget. Okay, so it doesn't have, that staff recommendation doesn't kind of reflect the resolution, but I do kind of agree with some of the information in the report about waiting until the actual building is complete, because I don't think that's what it says in resolution. Maybe I can get some clarity on that intention of the resolution, if that's what it meant or not meant.
Who would like to take that? Mr. Waters?
Through the chair, the councillor is correct. We both A and B are essentially post Library Square development, because we understand the traffic volumes will change from what they are today, and both recommendations forward these two improvements to a budget process. So we're not proposing to do them right now, but if council wishes to do them right now, we've provided for an amount that especially for the stop sign, which is about $800. So if you want to do that right now, but what our recommendation is that you wait until the Library Square development is up and running.
Thank you. And so, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the language, and forgive me. The improvements to be approved subject to this final review. So is that allowing us the opportunity to come back and have a reassessment whether or not, say, the full stop is even something that would make sense there with the way the traffic flow is? There is mention of how it could back up traffic from stop sign to stop sign and how it actually might not work. Is there going to be another review to help us better understand whether that's necessary or not? Because I don't necessarily want to say, yeah, I'm going to approve something without having that kind of traffic flow knowledge. So is that the intention of that language?
Mr. Waters?
Through the chair, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, perfect. That's the clarity I needed. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to stay off screen for a moment. I found this report rather interesting, apart from the recommendations. This study was done quite a while ago, and you can see that because they're talking about the existing library, the schoolhouse, and proposed community center. So now we have a completely different thing going on. We have an expanded library. We have a theater. So I'm not sure how relevant. And also it suggests to have partnerships with shared parking agreements. They mentioned the United Church. Don't know whether that's going to be possible. But it is very interesting to me that this report, I believe, is a couple of years old now. And we have a very different plan for the use of space and the addition of space in Library Square. I don't know who'd like to speak to it, but it's concerning to me.
Yes, Ms. McDougall.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair. You can hear me through Mr. Chair. With regards to the BA study, the BA study was completed initially in December of 2018, but we asked them to do another update which incorporates the decisions and final recommendations that are held within this report. We did come to Council in May of 2019 with another update, and that subsequently included all of the aspects that the project was to include, including the addition on the 22 Church, the bridge, and the additional spaces within the library. So these recommendations, although they initiated in 2018, they were also updated as the project progressed.
Councillor Gardner.
Is that included as an attachment?
Ms. McDougall.
Sorry, it's not my report. I have to scroll down and see if it is attached.
I don't, there's 4, I don't believe it is.
Sorry about that. We're playing buttons here. The information in the back of the study, the attachment, is relative to the latest inputs and that update that BA study completed. So the data you're seeing in the attachment is from their final assessment, based on the parking capacities on street, off street, parking during events. That is all incorporating, understanding the latest evolution of this project.
Councillor Gardner.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll look at that for next week. But and I know Mr. Bad is a great traffic analyst, maybe not so experienced with reports, but I would have liked to have had that up front, because when you're reading this report and you're seeing that it's we're talking about a community center and the existing library, it led me to believe that it wasn't still relevant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just in relation to the downtown parking working group, it sort of identifies who sits on the committee, but I didn't see anybody from the public or the business community. So somebody who's actually downtown, you know, there every day, sort of living the parking challenges. Did we not give some thought to inviting somebody from the BAA, the Downtown Business Corps, to be part of the parking working group for some real world experience?
Mr. Waters or?
To the chair, you're correct, we don't have a member from that organization, but definitely that's a great idea, and we will ask them to participate.
I would hope so. I mean, you know, I'm sure staff are more than qualified from a technical aspect, but sometimes it's good to have user experience as part of the assessment process, and I'd like to see some of that show up on the working group. Thank you.
Mr. Nanarozny?
To you, Mr. Chair, just to add to Mr. Waters' comment, I would hope that we would be able to bring someone in sort of ad hoc as the agendas were developed for those meetings, because the intent of the group is mostly a staff working group, because we do want to handle a wide range of subject matters, such as possible property acquisitions and things like that that may not be appropriate for the public to be aware of. So our intention was to bring in the people according to what we were looking, which aspect of the parking plan we were looking at, but we will certainly do that.
And that's fine, as long as we're capturing different perspectives.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Gilliland, 'cause I did note, Councillor Thompson, 'cause I did notice that as well, and I had it as a note. So thank you for bringing that up. Another point that I would have liked to have seen with this report is within the options, it would have been nice to have some reference to a map of what the parking spots, what they meant with your different options, just to kind of give us an overview of what those options meant before, after, and growing. I think that would kind of help us understand where the needs assessment was. Mr. Waters, do you think maybe we could have something for next week?
Mr. Waters?
Through the chair, are you referring to the options that council approved for Victoria Street and Church Street?
I'm referring to, you have a variety of different options listed within the report with your recommendations of what it would look like having option 1B, option 2, 3A, and what it would mean with where we're going to allocate parking. Your recommendations were to go with the short-term parking solutions and explore medium long-term, and it'd just be nice to see on a map what those parking solutions meant versus a written assessment, just to kind of have a visual. Because I don't know if some of this short-term is including parking on Edward Street and the walking distance and what that means. So I just would like to have that visual.
Mr. Waters?
Through the chair, yes. Those are contained within the updated BA report, and what I can do is I can circulate those to council prior to the meeting. I can pull those extracts out of the BA report and circulate them around.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Councillor Gardner?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 8.4, DWQMS financial report. The report number OPS 20-015 be received, and that the 10-year financial plan for the town of Aurora water systems be approved. Could I get someone to put that on the floor, please? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I think this is a no-brainer, but I guess my only comment would be section in the report, practice ongoing public engagement and transparency to build confidence. I know that there was recently some questions about some browning in the water, and we've assured the public that the drinking water is safe. Mayor Marcus, maybe you want to touch on that. I know you did a little bit of a release to ensure the public, but it's just noting that maybe we do a better job of making sure we communicate with the public that we're doing absolutely the best and we can to ensure safe drinking water moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is Mr. Downey or Ms. Van Kessel online?
Yes.
Thank you. Just some questions that I had earlier. I'd like to repeat. With respect to the money that we put into this reserve, do we draw from it and put it back? Have we ever drawn for it? And if drawn from it, if we do we put the money back with interest?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the money in this reserve is used for capital projects. So when the money is used for capital, it comes out of the reserve. The reserve, the money that is held in it over time, does earn interest as it's part of our cash portfolio. And as part of our surplus management policy, should there be any sort of deficit during the year, then this reserve also manages that. So it acts as a capital reserve and a stabilization reserve.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And I was really thinking more about, I mean, it's a healthy reserve. Do we borrow from it for any reason other than capital projects wouldn't be borrowing? Do we borrow from it?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. I think she said it was rate stabilization, but.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So this reserve is part of our cash portfolio holdings. So we may borrow from it in the sense that if we're doing inter-fund borrowing, so we take our whole cash portfolio and our whole holdings, if there are some reserves that have negative balances, then those would end up having interest charged to them, which we would then go to the reserves with positive balance.
Ms. Gardner?
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm looking at page 3. It's at the bottom. It says the town has been progressively moving towards sustainable funding of the water system. Could you explain what that means, progressively moving towards?
Is that Mr. Downey or?
I can handle that one.
Okay. Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The term progressively moving towards sustainable funding speaks to the fact that we are contributing money to our reserves. And for water and wastewater reserve funding, we're looking at assets which can have up to a lifespan of about 80 years. So while our assets are still fairly young, we are continuing to contribute to this reserve, and we will be doing further analysis on what those reserve requirements are on the long term. This plan for the DWQMS only includes the first 10 years, where very few of our assets are in that stage where they would need rehabilitation work done at that time.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. With respect to the charts or the tables, I believe it's table 6. Just give me 1 sec, please. With table 6,
could you give us the page? The page?
It is in the attachments, and it's page 16.
Okay, go ahead.
We're going to be putting in a uniform figure for the next years. It's 1.7. Yet, with respect to the water rates, there's the rate forecast table 7. There's going to be a big jump
from 2020 to 2021. I can't, I don't know why that is.
Who would like that? Ms.
I
Wainwright?
can take one.
Yep. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the reason for that jump is the way the plan is put together. Because we do not have our budget before us yet for the 2021 to 2022 budget, we have not had the opportunity to update those budgeted numbers for 21 to 22. So what's happening here is, as you remember earlier this year, York Region waived the 9% increase for the cost for treating water and wastewater services. And we passed along that savings to our residents. So that resulted in a lower rate for the charge for water and wastewater services on a cubic meter basis. The reason the increase looks so much is because that's based on the rates that were included in the budget. So that would have assumed that 9% increase in those years. Now that we're not going to have that 9% increase when we do have the budget come forward next year, those numbers are going, or come forward in actually next month, those numbers are going to get updated. But having not had the budget move forward at this time, this is based on last year's budget.
Thank you very much. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. You have a notice of motion for next week. Any new business? I'll start to my right. Councillor Gilliland? New business? Mr. Humphreys? Councillor Kim? Councillor Thompson? Mayor Marcus? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to welcome our new acting manager of communications, Eliza Bennett, who's online with us. So I just thought it would be appropriate. It's her first meeting with us live to say hi to her and welcome her. On behalf of council, she's here and she's agreed to help us out while we have the absence of our manager who is on leave right now. So I had a great conversation with her and I'm looking forward to working with her and expanding upon our communications and making sure that we get that communications out to our residents in a timely fashion. So welcome, Eliza and council. I'm sure Eliza will be getting in touch with each of you at some point to have a conversation. So.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, do you have any new business?
We've been getting emails about our field use policy. I'm wondering, through Mr. Mayor, perhaps you know the answer. Are we going to be having a look at this policy? And if we are, when are we going to be starting to do that? Because teams, I suppose, will be planning hopefully their next year's schedule, maybe January, February. So are we going to have a chance to look at our policy before that?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not as familiar with any concerns with our field use, so it was not our intention to bring that forward with any amendment or update at this time. But certainly if there's feedback, I'd love to hear it, and if it's something we would need to do, we would look to do so.
Councillor Gardner?
Do you know when the last time was that we looked at our field use policies?
I'm sorry,
Ms.
Mr.
McDougall?
Chair. I'm racing to look it up for you. I have it. I'll email.
You can tell me next week.
I'll email council.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
That's all for me.
Public service announcements, Mr. Mayor? Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
I do. I just wanted to mention that the Run for South Lake, the virtual run, walk, bike is on this week, starting tomorrow. And while the registration date has passed, you can still sponsor somebody. You can still donate. I think last time I checked, Team Aurora was in the lead from the Municipal Cup perspective. So just a reminder, and if you have registered, look forward to seeing you out there.
Thank you. Councillor Kim? Councillor Humphreys, public service announcements? No? No? No. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes. Is this on? Yep. First off, I just want to point out that it's official that we have the town of Aurora did do a proclamation that September 25th to October 25th, 2020 is Cultural Days in Aurora. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that it's officially on the website, and we should all be excited that for this next coming month we have some exciting activities. Beginning September 25th, jump feet first into creativity, reimagine and engage and delight. Despite the Times, Cultural Days is a 4-week interactive, immersive arts and culture experience happening across Aurora and Canada in person where possible and online. From September 25th to October 25th, 2020, lose yourself in a labyrinth of performing arts, cooking demonstrations, music festivals, virtual tours, photography contests, walking tours, and more. This year, the town of Aurora is actively collaborating with local cultural organizations to highlight Aurora's arts, culture, and heritage scene. New this year is Culture in a Box. Each box contains cultural activities, arts and crafts, and hands-on tactile experiences that can be completed safely from the comfort of your home and while social distancing in the community. Boxes are free to Aurorians, and residents will be able to pick up on September 26th. Quantities will be limited, so register now to reserve your box. Young Street and John Westway will also be adorned with some wonderful banners featuring Aurora's vibrant arts and culture scene. So don't miss out on your chance to be creative. More information about the Culture in a Box that's happening during Culture Days, please visit www.aurora.ca/Culture Days.
Thank you. Mayor Marakis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to mention, obviously, there's been some changes with some of the gathering restrictions, so I just wanted to clear some of the messaging that's out there. The gathering limitations that have been put in place speak specifically to private gatherings. So it does not impact our business community. It does not impact our facilities, our sports organizations. Those still remain at the 50 indoor, 100 outdoor. Obviously, while you still respect physical distancing, wear your masks while you're indoors, and obviously wash your hands and you don't touch your face. So I think we're still in a good position here in the town of Aurora. Everyone is doing their part, and but I just wanted to make mention that those limitations on the gatherings to 10 and 25 are specifically for private gatherings. In essence, it's the province has looked to curb those house parties that have been going on, where they've been finding that those are where the numbers are starting to creep up, where people are starting to get infected at those parties, and so that's why they decided to make the change for the private gatherings. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll continue with our closed session, but I think for this meeting, it's a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland, all those in favor? Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, everyone.